Om Shri Sai Ram, offering my loving salutations at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Swami. Also offering my salutations to all the devotees of the Tustin Center. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to all of you. Last year, when my wife Dr. Supriya and me were in the US for a month and we had the great opportunity of visiting many centers, we still fondly remember the Tustin Center, the beautiful Tustin Center, and the wonderful people we met there and the wonderful time we had there doing satsang. So Tustin Center has a very special place in our hearts. So it's really wonderful to be meeting you all again, even though it's online. Still, to establish this connection with all of you, it's very joyous to me. Thank you so much. Welcome to today's satsang. I have received some questions from all of you. So what I'm going to do is to first have a look at those questions, and we will address those questions, and then I will proceed to say what I am inspired to say today. Firstly, before I say anything else, it's important to understand that I am here to describe, not prescribe anything. Which means that there is a lot I don't know. There is a lot of things that I don't know. There is a little that I know. What I know well. And I promise you, whatever I speak, whatever comes out of me today will be based only on my direct experience. But at the same time, all I will do is describe to you my experience of how my journey unfolded sitting at the lotus feet of Swami. What happened to me? How this being got transformed sitting at the lotus feet of the great Swami. So it is only a description, not a prescription. If something, if some of the things that I say resonates with you, please go ahead, pick it up. If it doesn't, safely ignore it. So I am here to describe, not to prescribe. The first question that I received from some of the devotees of the Tustin Center was, what made Swami unique amongst the beings that have walked this planet? I would not use the word unique, simply because when you say something is unique, we claim to know everything else, right? For every devotee, his master is unique. For us, Swami is unique. For some other devotee of some other guru, some other master, his or her master is unique. So let us let go of the word unique. Also often, there is this tendency where we say, my master is the best. Here the focus is neither on the master nor the best. Actually, the focus is on mine. So let us avoid that, the word unique. I would respond to the question. Let me paraphrase the question. Let me take the liberty to paraphrase the question. If the question were, what is so special about Swami? Well, there are so many things. Where to start? Everything about him was so beautiful and so special. One thing but, which is really special was, his divine energy that he used to exude, especially when he was coming for darshan. He was like a sun, like a shining orb of fire. Such was his brilliance, the brilliance of his divine energy that he exuded. Before even Swami could say something, before even he would do something, what would happen to us in his presence, just because of the divine energy that Swami would exude? That was the most brilliant thing that I most loved about Swami, in all my years of stay at his lotus feet. There are many occasions, but one such occasion I especially remember was the Christmas of 2003. It was the 25th December morning around 5:15 a.m. Swami came for darshan in his white robes. I think it was the last time Swami did that. The last year Swami came for the early morning darshan on Christmas. And when I saw Swami that morning, when I looked at Swami's face and I looked into Swami's eyes, what I experienced is indescribable. The energy, the beauty, the flame-like brilliance that Swami was exuding that day, it is something that the mind cannot grasp, the words cannot express. It was simply so mesmerizing and heavenly. It was simply, it will just transport you effortlessly into deeper dimensions of your own existence. No meditation, no sadhana, just being there and looking at Swami, you would be transported into, such a deep silence. That power of his presence, I think that was the most phenomenal thing about the great avatar that we have come to know as Swami. The second question is, how would you describe the good fortune of knowing him? The fortune of knowing Swami, is only as much as is our transformation. Imagine a person having $1 million in her account. What is the fortune of that person having $1 million in her account? The fortune is only that which the person is able to do with those $1 million in the account. What use do we put those $1 million to? That determines the extent of that person's fortune, isn't it? If the person dies still with $1 million in her account, what fortune is there? There is no fortune, isn't it? So the fortune of knowing Swami is actually really just basically the extent of our transformation. So how would I describe my fortune of being with Swami? Well, the description is me myself. Whatever transformation I have undergone sitting at his lotus feet, I became a student in 2002. So if I take that as a starting point, from 2002 to 2020, 18, 19 years of being in Swami's presence, the transformation that has happened within me, that is the extent of my fortune of being with Swami. The next question is, what are some of your best memories of being with Swami? Well, let me put this frankly. In the way of awareness, there is not much use of the past. There is not much use of memories. Really, I have no use of the past or of memories. They are simply there. But for anybody who follows the path of awareness, that person's succor, that person's nutrition for the soul comes from the depth of presence in this moment. So, memories, good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant, however beautiful, are not that important. But since the question has been asked, I distinctly remember, amongst many other things, 3 instances. The first is the first time when I sat for Swami's darshan as a student of the Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. Before that, once or twice I had come to Parthi and I used to sit way behind with the devotees, and I always used to look at the students, clad in whites, and I used to wonder how would it be to be that close physically to Swami and to have his darshan. June 2002, and the first time in my life I sat on the white marble or the white slabs which are reserved for the students. The first time when I sat there and had Swami's darshan, I cannot forget that beautiful occasion. It was a very special day in my life. The second important day I remember was the first time when I was alone with Swami in his private interview room. It was February 17th, 2004. I had got a few interviews before that day, but the first time, it was one day before that year's Shivratri. I remember the Shivratri was on the 18th of February. 17th of February, Swami for the first time was alone with me, and he granted me a personal interview in the private interview room, which is a room within the actual interview room. And then when Swami was alone with me, he hugged me and I hugged Swami. It was a very, very intimate, a very special moment. Swami shed tears. I shed even more tears of joy. And Swami said, I have been waiting for this moment for so long. I have not yet really understood what Swami meant, because I thought I was the one waiting for that moment. But this is what happened. And the sheer intimacy, the sheer bond, the sheer love that I received from Swami on that day, that also is etched in my memory. The third instance, I would say, an important experience, so to say, is basically it happened in April 2009. The last words Swami physically spoke to me. I remember Swami came in the golf cart. It was April 2009. There was a lot of turmoil in my life at that time. Many things were not working out the way I had hoped they would. There was a lot of confusion. There wasn't much clarity. There was a lot of anxiety, and it was a difficult time. I was sitting in the portico. Swami came in his golf cart. Swami called me. I went to Swami. Feebly, Swami extended his arm towards me. His body was already quite weak. Feeble, he extended his arm, and I gave my hand to Swami. And Swami held my palm firmly. His voice was feeble, but the resolve behind that voice was as strong as a mountain. In my soul, I could feel the power in Swami's words. He held my hand and said, "Why are you afraid? I am here. Why are you afraid? I am here." These were the last words that I physically heard from Swami. They are special words, and they have become like a mantra to me in my life. So these are some of the memories that I have of being with Swami. The fourth question was, please share experiences with Swami that have inspired you and also sparks of realization. This question I will be answering as I move along in my talk. As I move along, some experiences will surface which will have insights in them. So this question will get answered as we move along in our talk. The next question is, how do you feel Swami's presence after he left the physical form? I am reading the questions as they have come to me. I am not changing anything, quote unquote. I am simply reading the questions as I received them in my email inbox. The question is, how do you feel Swami's presence after he left the physical form? In 2005, some ex-students from the Indian city of Delhi were sitting with Swami in the interview room. I also happened to be there. One of the students from Delhi asked Swami, "Swami, when I am here with you, I feel your presence very intensely. But when I go back to Delhi, I am unable to feel your presence. What do I do?" Swami said, "In Delhi, are you able to feel your presence? Your presence is no different from my presence. They are one and the same." I'll repeat. Swami asked the student, "In Delhi, do you feel your presence? Because your presence is the same as my presence, there is no difference between the two. How do we feel our presence, which is the same as Swami's presence, will be one of the topics that we will take up in the next section of the talk. The next question is, how to develop greater love for God? The word love is a very interesting word. We really don't know what it means actually. Love may start as an emotion, but then gradually it matures into an energy. Where there is great love, but there necessarily need not be great emotion. And finally, what is the parakashta of love? There is a very beautiful Sanskrit word called parakashta. Parakashta means literally translated the upper limit. The absolute upper limit of something. That's parakashta. What's the parakashta of love? The parakashta of love is unity, oneness. When the lover and the beloved are one and there is no difference and there is oneness, that is the absolute maturity or absolute, ripening of love. I'm reminded of this beautiful quote by Kabir. Kabir Das was a Sufi, a mystic, a great yogi, a great devotee, a great jnani. A few centuries back, he walked in the spiritual land of Bharat. He said, "Prem gali ati sankri, isme do na samahi. अब गुरु है तो मैं नहीं, जब मैं तो गुरु नहीं." For those of you who know in Hindi would have understood this. What he is saying is the street of love is very, very narrow. There is only place for one. Now that the Guru is there, I am not there. And if I am there, the Guru is not there. It is a very, very powerful, very, very enlightening statement. I am reminded of one instance in 2009. I'm not very good with dates. I think it was January. 2009 January, Swami walked inside the bhajan hall. And Swami was looking pretty upset. And he started murmuring, "Evru chachipoledu. Nobody has died. Nobody has died. Nobody has died. My life is a waste." Yes, this is what Swami said. This was not said in any public discourse. This was not said in any public gathering. So there is no documentation. And also Swami was speaking a little softly. So only the first two or at most the 3 rows of the bhajan boys who are sitting right at the feet of Swami would have heard what he said. I was sitting in the second row, just about 5 feet from Swami. And Swami was saying, "Nobody has died. Nobody has died. My life is waste. I am ashamed of myself." This is what Swami said. Then Swami said, "Who is willing to die? Here, who is willing to die?" Many students raised their hand. Be that as it may. And then of course Swami changed his mood immediately, and then he said, "Start the bhajans." Then he was enjoying the bhajans. He took the aarti and left. But it really made me think, and as I was walking back to the hostel, and when I reached the hostel, this statement of Swami kept ringing in my head. Nobody has died. Nobody has died. So many years have passed, but nobody has died. And I was thinking, what should die? What does Swami want to die? What should die? And what should remain? The answer to that question actually is also the answer to the question, what is love for God? We will also look at it a little later. Then there are a set of questions. How does one evolve and overcome body consciousness? How to maintain a connection to God through all phases of life? How does one overcome so many layers of ignorance? How does one understand the deeper truths of life and comprehend the self? And the final question is, why is the state of happiness or lasting peace so elusive? The solution to all of this bunch of questions is simply one, and the solution is to go within. The solution is to go within. In is the only way out. Firstly, what we need to get, and we need to get this really, really well, is why go within? Why go within? Everything happens within. It looks as if some things happen outside. For example, you may say that you are listening to this talk outside. You are seeing this video outside. But really, if you look closely, what is vision? We know, some of us know the physics of vision. The light falls on the body, it gets reflected, and in our eyes, the inverted image is formed in the retina, and that's how we see. So actually, we think we are seeing outside, but really we are seeing within ourselves. Vision is happening here. Hearing, what is hearing? Hearing is simply vibration of our drums, eardrums. So basically, hearing is also happening within. More importantly, the experience of vision, the experience of hearing is completely happening within. All meaning is generated within. All stories, labels, definitions, categorizations, all understanding, everything happens within. The whole experience of the cosmos happens within. It only appears as if something is outside. Even the most distant star in the universe, if we have to know of it, if we have to have any experience about it, it can only happen within. So whole life and what we call universe is truly within. I remember in one interview, Swami told me, if you can manage yourself, you can manage the whole universe. If you can manage yourself, you can manage the whole universe. So all life truly, well and truly happens within. All entanglement happens within, all freedom happens within, all questions happen within, all answers happen within, all confusions happen within, all clarity happens within, all bondage happens within, all liberation happens within. Everything that happens only within. Now the question is, what is this going within? This is the most common question that I very often get. People say, go within, go within. What is the meaning of going within? Where am I supposed to go? Where is this within? And how do you go within? And what's the meaning of going within? See, we have already seen everything happens within. So we are already within, right? We are already within. Where else to go? Already all of us are within. For example, one of my students recently asked me, sir, everybody says be in the now, be in the now. What is the meaning of being in the now? Where else can we be? Has anybody been ever not in the now? Tell me. This talk is happening in the now. You're sitting in your own houses, in your own rooms, watching this talk on YouTube, probably on your cell phone or a laptop. You're watching it right now. Everything happens in the now. All thought happens in the now. Even if we think of the past, the thinking of the past itself happens in the now. Even if we are anxious about the future, that anxiety about future happens in the now. So all of us are already within, all of us are already in the now. So what is the meaning then of go within? What is the meaning then of be in the now? Why are there so many masters, so many great beings always telling us go within? Be in the now. But all is already within and we are already in the now. So what is the meaning of going within and being in the now? It is simply this. Of course, we are already within. But going within means deepening our experience of this moment. Deepening our experience of within is going within. So what is the meaning of being in the now? Deepening our experience of now. For example, right now, how is this now, this moment showing up itself? For most of us, the now shows itself as bodily sensations. Maybe you are watching this video sitting and after a few minutes your back is aching. So that's how your now is right now showing up as a physical sensation. This now sometimes will show up as thoughts. Sometimes random thoughts, sometimes actively sought out thoughts, sometimes as stories made of a collection of thoughts. Sometimes this now will show up as an emotion. And when we say, oh, I am feeling so, I am feeling happy, I am feeling sad. So you see, this now can show up sometimes as a physical sensation, it can sometimes show up as thought, sometimes it can show up as emotion. So deepening the experience of now, deepening the experience of life is going within. And the deepest way we can experience life is when we become life itself. When we become one with the life. So the deepest way of experiencing this moment or to experience the now is to become one with this moment. Absolutely one. And that is called presence. See, I know such conversations are best had face to face where I can gauge what the audience is getting and what they are not getting, and you will have an opportunity to question me, and that really makes the conversation more powerful and it makes it easier to go deeper. But well, we are living in times when it is not possible, so let's make the best of what we have. So I hope what I just said is clear. The idea of going deeper into the now is basically what it means is to try to deepen the experience of now as it happens for us. How can we relate to anything? Anything, say for example, the now. One way of relating to the now, for example, or to anything else is to talk about it. That's one way. The second way of relating to something is to think about it. Slightly deeper. The third way of experiencing something is to understand it. That is slightly deeper. The fourth way of experiencing something is possibly to experience it. That is the fourth way, slightly deeper. But the deepest way, the most beautiful, fantastic, and the most complete way of experiencing anything is actually being one with it. And that is the purpose of going within. That is the goal of going within. To become one with life itself. Not just the way life is manifesting itself in this moment, but to become one with life itself. That is the purpose of going within. And that is also the meaning of going within. Going within is not an escape. Going within is not a trance-like blissful state where we can temporarily escape the challenges of life. In fact, going within is an empowerment. Going within arms us with the awareness with which we are able to handle life more powerfully, with greater clarity and with greater freedom. When we truly go within, we get a perspective in life. Everything in life starts to seem just as it is. Thoughts are just thoughts. They're simply what they are. No more, no less. Relationships are just relationships. Just what they are. No more, no less. Emotions, well, they're just what they are. No more, no less. Everything simply becomes what it is. No more, no less. This clarity comes from going within, and it helps us to wade through life with greater power and clarity and with greater awareness and consciousness. So going within is not an escape, it is an empowerment. Now, so much so for going within. So how do we go within? The method, technique, or technology or whatever we call it, for going within, which I will discuss today with you, is deeply rooted in the teachings of Swami. Many times in his discourses, many times, Swami has stressed on this. In fact, in 2006 in Kodaikanal, Swami asked this question to the students and the other guests who are accompanying Swami on the trip. One day Swami finished the evening bhajans, came and sat in the drawing room, all of us, about 20 of us, plus some VIPs, we're all sitting around Swami. And then Swami asked this question, who am I? Cheppu, Swami said. Tell me, who am I? Answers were flying thick and fast. I remember somebody said, Swami, you are pure love. Swami said, no. Then somebody said, Swami, you are God. Swami said, one answer I remember clearly. Somebody said, Swami, you are Paripurna Avatar. You are complete embodiment. You are divine incarnation. And Swami said, Adi Kade Kadu. That I definitely am not. And then finally, once most of us realized that we are no closer to the right answer, Swami said, Nenu Nene. I am simply I. On one another occasion, when I was in the entry room with Swami and I asked some question to Swami, some spiritual question. I don't remember the question, and anyway it is irrelevant. What's relevant to Swami's answer? Swami said, see, whatever answer your mind finds to any question, that question will lead to whatever answer your mind finds to a question, that answer will lead to 1,000 more questions. Whatever answer your mind finds to a question, that answer itself will lead to 1,000 more questions. Then Swami said, drop all questions. Drop all questions. Fill your mind with only one question. Who am I? Who am I? Fill your mind with that one question. On another occasion, Swami said this to me, and I am quoting Swami. Swami said, there is no higher tapas than watching the coming and going of the I thought. Swami said, and let me repeat, quote unquote, there is no higher tapas or penance than watching the coming and going of the I thought. So I'm going to put all this together and briefly, the way I have experienced it, as I said at the beginning, this is only a description, not a prescription. I'm going to describe how this method has worked for me in ways I could not have imagined. You see, everything is changing about us all the time, but at the same time there is something that is not changing. For example, I was feeling a certain way half an hour back. Now I'm feeling differently. I had some other thoughts half an hour back. Now there are a different train of thoughts. Thoughts change. Feelings change. Our intellectual abilities change. The body is changing. So many other things around us, within us, everything is constantly changing. But the one thing that never changes, and I want you to consider this and pay attention within yourself, and you will see that the one thing that never changes is the feeling of I-ness, or simply the feeling of being alive, or even more simply, the feeling of simply being. I am there. There is no proof required. I am there. I may be tall, I may be fat, I may be short, I may be handsome, I may be ugly, I may be intelligent, I may be stupid, I may be happy, I may be sad. Whatever it is, I still am. And that sense of I-ness is a constant feeling which itself in its very nature never undergoes any change. Body is changing all the time. Right? Our bodies are very different from what it was 1 year back, let us say. And we say, oh, my body has changed. But whose body has changed? My body. That feeling of I-ness, that itself never undergoes any change. And this I is truly distinct from everything. Say, for example, if you go to a hairstylist, we get our hair cut. And then when we are leaving the salon, do we look back and look at our hair that's fallen on the floor, and do you feel, oh my God, a part of me is left back? We don't feel that way. A part of our body is removed, but we walk away whole. We walk away with that sense of I-ness, complete, intact, the same way as we came into the hairstylist salon, the same way we leave. So that feeling of I-ness itself never ever changes. Age changes, thoughts change, emotions change, the way we think, feel, everything. What we know changes. Something we may not have known yesterday, but today we know something else. Our knowledge changes, intellectual abilities change. In the midst of this entire dance of change, the one thing that never changes is simply the feeling of I-ness. And the simplest and the most complete yet stunningly simple sadhana is to become aware of this I feeling and to simply pay attention. Loving, gentle, but unwavering attention to this I-ness which is always shining within us. Before we can be anything, before we can say anything, I am this or that, first I have to say, I am. And wherever you are sitting, dear listener, wherever you are sitting and wherever you are listening, whenever you are listening to this talk, just try and saying to yourself, I am, I am, I am. And see with closed eyes, when you say I am, or when you simply say I, how does it feel like? What is the nature of this I? Who is the one who is saying I? From where does it come? From where to where does it go? What is its source? What is its end? How does it feel to say I? And simply, lovingly, gently, but unwaveringly pay attention to this I, which is in everybody. Anybody who is alive and conscious will have this sense of I. In this method, all are same. There is no special talent, there is no special skill, there is no special ability. Somebody innately cannot be better than others in this sadhana, because this is open for everybody, because all have I within themselves. The first thought within everybody is always the I thought. That the thought of I, the thought of a separate individualized existence, I. So by paying unwavering attention to this I thought, something beautiful, something magnificent will happen. What will happen is something that you have to discover yourself. Because see, one of the problems is basically, the trap of words. Words make us feel that we know. And the moment we feel we know, we will never know. So the starting point of real knowing is basically, I don't know. I don't know. And in this path of awareness, when we are doing who am I, we should do away with all labels, all ideas. Basically, we must do away with everything that we think we know. And we should try to start with a completely new slate. I know nothing about myself. I know nothing about myself. All I truly know, and that knowing is absolutely inherent in me, because that is the only thing that I can say absolutely certainly about myself right now is that I am. All other knowledge about the self should be given up. We should start with a clean slate and all I know about myself, the only thing I can be absolutely certain about myself is that I simply am. I simply am. So we start from there and we stay there. We simply bring awareness to this thought, I am, and unwaveringly we simply go on watching this thought, I, and just simply watch. In this path, there cannot be any failure. It's impossible. How can we fail? We are simply watching ourselves. We simply have to not get attached or identified with any other current thoughts, emotions, all this will come and go. We keep our unwavering attention on the thought, I am. Now the thought may come, oh, what is this I am? I am not finding it. Come back to the question, who is not finding it? The answer will be, I am not finding it. Who is not finding it? I am not finding it. Who am I? And we come back. We never stop. Suppose we are doing this exercise and who am I? And suddenly we feel tremendous bliss. We don't stop. We don't stop. Immediately we say, who is experiencing this bliss? I am experiencing this bliss. Who am I? And we go back to the question. This question has no answer. It is the answerless question. This is the question without an answer ever. The end of this question is the end of you as an individualized existence. The end of the question, who am I, is the end of me as an individualized existence. And when we continue with the sadhana, then we will understand the meaning of Kabir Das's words. When he said, जब मैं था तो गुरु नहीं, अब मैं हूँ, और जब गुरु हैं तो मैं नहीं. He said, जब मैं था तो गुरु नहीं. When I am there, Guru is not there. Now that the Guru is there, I am not there. We will also understand what Swami said when he came into the bhajan hall and he said, nobody has died. What did Swami want dead within us? Answer to all these questions. Also answer to the questions, how do we comprehend the self? How do we go within? How do we stay connected to Swami? All these questions will be answered if we continue to watch this I thought. Continually watching this I thought will open up a world of tremendous silence, a fantastic new dimension of stillness and silence, which is always there within us. It will just become more and more palpable, more and more available, more and more intimate in our experience. And that dimension is the divine dimension of Swami. No wonder Swami said, silence is silence. We'll understand what is that silence Swami was referring to when we continuously pay attention, unwaveringly, lovingly, gently to this thought, I am. With these few words, let me take your permission to withdraw this from this beautiful satsang. Again, let me express how grateful I am for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much. You may feel free to write if you have any clarifications, any questions, or any of what I said was not clear, you would want to have it repeated, or anything else. Please feel free to write an email to Mr. Sunil, who has been kind enough to organize this talk, and he will forward those questions to me, and if there is another chance, I will be very happy to take up those questions and clarifications. Thank you once again, and Jai Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, thank you, Sanjay, for joining us today. And thank you, our heartfelt gratitude to Swami for giving us the absolute highest wisdom every moment that Swami taught us. You can see through these words that the highest wisdom is being passed on to us from Swami. And when we go to this deeper level, truly we experience a oneness between all of us. And this is very, very beautiful. Let us end today by singing Arati.
Om Tat Sat Shri Narayan Tu Purushottama Guru Tu Siddha Buddha Tu Skanda Vinayaka Savita Pavak Tu Savita Pavak Tu Brahmamasta Tu Yahava Shakti Tu Keshu Pita Prabhu Tu Rudra Vishnu Tu Rama Krishna Tu Rahim Tavo Tu Rahim Tavo Tu Vasudeva Tu Vishwarupa Tu Chidananda Hari Tu Advibhiya Tu Akhalane Atmalinga Shiva Tu Atmalinga Shiva Tu Atmalinga Shiva Tu Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Satya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Parti Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashi Vadana Shikara Sarva Pranapate Swami Sarva Pranapate Ashrita Kalpalatika Ashrita Kalpalatika Apadvandava Om Jai Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Guru Devamu Mariyantayu Nive Swami Mariyantayu Nive Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nagendra Shayana Om Jai Jagadish Hare Omkara Rupa Ojasmi O Sai Mahadeva Satya Sai Mahadeva Mangala Arati Anduko Mangala Arati Anduko Mandara Giridhari Om Jai Jagadish Hare Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva Shanti 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 Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.